So, I thought I'd be starting this off with more good news than I have. But I'm filming this 2 days after this game happened because, like nearly every other Minnesota fan in existence, I was watching the Vikings on Wild Card Weekend. Man, that does not feel good. But we should be used to it by this point, right? Should have known that Ed Donato could not call a defense to save his life. Should have known that it wasn't meant to be. Again. But for all the people who are saying it was Kirk Cousins' fault, that's just not true. Okay? I read a stat that this is the only game in NFL history where a team had over 80% completion percentage, no sacks given up, and no turnovers given up, and they still lost. Teams previously had been 47-0 in that stat. And of course, the Vikings, with a record-breaking season comes a record-breaking loss too. Just fitting. Because not even the biggest comeback in NFL history, not even multiple other incredible games, not even being 11-0 in one-score games, can get the Vikings past the wild card. And yes, I guess people were right. Maybe we were punching over our weight. But it felt way too different than normal Vikings football. It actually, I'll say it. I truly thought this team had a chance. And this team reminds me of the Wild team last year when they broke all of those records and they just looked fun to watch. They were exciting. It was kind of dangerous to watch them because the Wild always went into overtime and the Vikings always went down to the wire here. It was the same thing. This Vikings team this year was the same as the Wild team last year. And again, it ends in the same way. Ends way too soon. So one day, a Minnesota sports franchise in general will win a championship. I just hope it happens in my lifetime. Okay, I am almost 21 now, so I'm hoping at some point, hopefully, maybe, I don't know, before I have kids, so I don't scare them whenever the Vikings lose or whenever we win. So there's always next year. There always is next year. So aside from all that news and the fact that Minnesota sports are cursed beyond belief, I'll get to the good part, and then I'll finish off with a rant later. So, what was good is that the day before that Vikings game, the Wild beat the Coyotes 2-1 in Minneapolis. Or not Minneapolis, St. Paul. Jeez, I'm getting confused now. But yeah, 2-1 with a weird home game stuffed in between a massive road stretch for some reason. I'm not sure why they put that in there, but sure, why not? And the game was Connor Ingram versus Marc-Andre Fleury. And the Coyotes had lost 7 in a row leading into this game. So you'd think that something's got to give. And I was kind of hoping something wouldn't give because it's the Coyotes. But no, they came out with energy. I said puppy energy because it's like the energy you look around when you get a new puppy and it just will not go to sleep at all. It'll just keep bouncing around. It'll play with you or try to get you to play the whole time. It just continues. They never ran out of energy. And so the Wild were kind of stuck in the mud. And I was watching this from this location, my house in Scottsdale, but I was watching on the Coyotes broadcast. And it was funny because Tyson Nash said a lot of the things that I thought were wrong with the Wild, which was that their defense was not as good as it should be. And frankly, yeah, it looked like that in the first period. They were slow. They were kind of lackluster almost. It just didn't seem like they wanted to be there. And luckily, we didn't get scored on in the first period, even though the Coyotes were banging at the door to try and get a goal. Somehow, at the end of the first, no goals go in. And Eriksson Ek, actually, in that first period, almost had a good chance to get the first goal himself on a breakaway, but Nick Schmaltz, I originally thought it rolled off his stick, but Nick Schmaltz lifts up his stick at the last second to prevent the breakaway. And Kelly Sutherland got hit by a puck on accident, but he was okay. So yeah, first period comes and goes. Wild look slow and kind of sloppy, while the Coyotes are fast-paced. Like their prospects are very good, and it shows. Dylan Gunther was rolling out there on the ice. Clayton Keller was looking good. Jack McBain, who we should know, was also looking pretty good. But yeah, luckily, 0-0 at the end of the first. So we moved to the second, and I wrote this down right here. It says, Fleury gives up rebounds like a boss gives up coins in a video game. And what I meant by that is that every time the puck shot at Fleury, it's like when you get a hit on a boss in a video game and like a coin pops out. That's the way these rebounds were bouncing out. It would hit him and it would just bounce away. Rebound control was not something Fleury had tonight, or at least not early on, because he was giving up such juicy rebounds. Oh my goodness, it looked like a sirloin steak in front of the net. Somehow it didn't go in though. But it's just funny the way Fleury he's never normal in net. He's never normal, like, like cover in, grab the puck and save it. He never just gloves it. No, he has to, he will use his blocker to go across his body and just make the most acrobatic saves. If it works, then yeah, which it did work, but it was scaring me because I'm like, oh, okay, hopefully he can get that one next time. And then another one comes in. It's like, oh, geez, just make normal saves. But like I said, if it wins, sure, why not? And to this point, there hadn't been any penalties until Jake Middleton took a hooking penalty with 15:24 left to go. And I wrote, the Yotes are faster than I thought. Frankly, yeah. Like I said, their prospects are good. And if you give them time, I think they can make the playoffs. Not this year, probably not the year after that, but maybe the last year they're in Mullet. The last year they're at ASU's arena. I think they could make the playoffs. You just need to give them a little bit more time to mesh, and things will work because offensively, they are dangerous. Okay? They can stick with anybody in the league. That's why they've beaten teams like the Maple Leafs and I think they beat the Hurricanes or somebody else. They're a trap game. They're a trap game. That's what I kind of thought this was originally. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Middleton takes a hooking penalty, and the Yotes are putting on pressure, and you can just feel the tension in the building. There's uneasy murmurs get it out. You could definitely tell the things were starting to unravel for Minnesota. They were getting hemmed in their own zone. They couldn't get it out. The Yotes just kept firing and firing and firing. Fleury still making the crazy saves where the puck bounces off of him, bounces off like a coin. But yeah, I was looking at the game the same way they were. Just please make a save. Just get it out. Get it out. But then, and I think the turning point of the game was right here. 12:15 left in the second period. It was at this point where Clayton Keller takes an interference penalty. And to be honest, I didn't even really see the penalty because I was going to go to drink. But that's the moment where the building just kind of 180'd and flipped the whole way around. People started to realize, okay, now we will be the ones that are going to give the offensive pressure. And lo and behold, we continue to dominate in their zone. Or not continue. We start to dominate in their zone. And it helps because, remember Jack McBain? He got a roughing penalty as well with 11:32 to go. So what that means is that there was a 5-on-3 for Minnesota for a minute 17. And you know how I've been for 5-on-3s, okay? The Wild, if you can't score on a 5-on-3, you shouldn't deserve to win. That's my theory. So they should be able to get a goal here. And that roughing penalty by Jack McBain literally just ran over Kalen Addison. To be honest, I thought it was a good hit. I didn't even think it was a roughing penalty, but he ran him over. Absolutely ran him over. So a minute 17 of 5-on-3 for Minnesota. And finally, they cash in. Okay? Originally, Connor Ingram kicked the net off its moorings. Some might think back to the Islanders game, the game before this, where I think it was it Barzal or Mayfield, one of the two? They just purposely knocked that net off. They didn't call this one, so Ingram didn't get a penalty there, but still 5-on-3. And eventually, Zuccarello cashes in 1-0 Minnesota. It's his 18th of the season, scored with 10:21 left to go in the game, assisted by who else? Wait. Can you see it? You see it? Greatest Christmas gift we ever found at Shields. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. But yeah, absolutely great assist from Kaprizov and Addison. Basically, it's a scramble in front of the net. The puck is bouncing everywhere except for where it should go. Eventually, it gets over to, it goes to Kaprizov, who steals it off the end boards, gets it to Addison, goes back to Kaprizov, who's over on the side right here, the impossible angle, and he finds Zuccarello wide open in front of the net. Well, not wide open, but he had a lot of space to work with, and it's an easy tap in, 1-0 Minnesota. And there's still penalty time left. There was 49 seconds left on the second penalty. So the Wild still have a power play. And for a second, they kept scrambling and pushing and going at it, and eventually they get another one. I thought it was on the power play originally. Turns out it was just after it, but that basically happened due to the 5-on-3. Gaudreau gets his 11th of the season, 9:30 left to go in the second period, assisted by Hartman, his 8th of the season, and Sam Steele, his 14th of the season. Once again, another scramble, this time in the corner. It eventually bounces out to Hartman, who dekes his way around Connor Ingram, is able to find an open Gaudreau in the slot, and just whacks it. It's the same 2 goals that just got scored. And so just like that, 51 seconds apart, bang, bang, just like that, the Wild are now up 2-0 in a game where they did not have any momentum at all. And so now the building's rock, and now everybody's in a better mood, and things are starting to roll. Fleury kept making some clutch saves, and he continued to dominate. Both goalies in this game weren't bad. They were actually pretty good. Like Connor Ingram, despite that 5-on-3, he was still stopping the Wild at almost every opportunity they had. And so was Marc-Andre Fleury by this point in the game. His saves started to look less like coins bouncing off a boss and more like an actual NHL goaltender, where he was fine with just covering the puck or just, making kick saves. His sprawling actually worked this time. So Arizona was still fighting for chances. Like I said, both goalies were doing good. Connor Ingram, had a great stop on Matthew Boldy, who, by the way, signed a 7x7 deal, 7 years, $7 million. The actual contract breakdown is a little different, but it's good to have him for the next 7 years, so that's good. Minnesota continuing to buzz at the end of the second, and eventually the period ends. And like I said, at the end of the second, those 2 power play goals changed the momentum of the game. But the Yotes will not go away that easily because I know better. I've seen them play, and I know they're a scrappy team, okay? I compare the Coyotes to the Detroit Lions, the ones of the past before. Well, kind of the Dan Campbell Lions too, because no matter what, people don't really expect them to win, but by God, will they fight for it. They will do almost anything to try and get that win. And they don't care if you don't think that they won't win. They will continue to fight, to push, to dominate. If effort was an actual reward in the NHL, the Coyotes would probably have it, or at least be in the conversation, because they are just scrappy. They are brutal to go against. And so the third period starts, and again, this game now goes back to the back and forth start it was in the beginning. Started out back and forth, then the Coyotes took over all the momentum. Those 2 power plays happen. The Wild get all the momentum. Then we come on to the third. Now it's back and forth at both ends again and again. Okay? At 15-12, the puck almost rolls across the line for the Coyotes. So close, but it hits Marc-Andre Fleury's helmet, rolls across the blue paint, and he's able to just put his glove down, like as if you were catching like a cockroach in like a Tupperware bowl, just right there. Keep it. So it's good. It's good that he's able to save that, but he couldn't save the next one. Lawson Krause gets the Coyotes on the board. 14-18 left to go in the third, assisted by McBain and Chychrun. And I forgot to put the assists on there. But it was assisted by McBain and Chychrun. Basically, Jacob Chychrun throws it to McBain. He fires a shot, and the rebound goes right to Lawson Krause. It's way too quick for any goalie to get. And so that one goes in for the Coyotes. But luckily, it seems as though Kaprizov has gotten another goal. It would be his 100th of the season. But hold on. It might be offsides. It was looking like his 100th career goal, and it was a nice shimmy shake and a shot from the point that was top shelf, completely beat Ingram. But because he shimmied one too many times at the blue line, a player was offside for Minnesota. Arizona won the challenge, but it still kept kept Kaprizov off the board. He still has his 99th career goal. He's close to 100. They play Washington next. Maybe he can get it there against Ovechkin. But again, it continues to be a fast-paced and exciting game after that review. And Minnesota continues to get more chances while the Coyotes do the same as well. Eventually, with 5:15 left to go, the Coyotes are starting to get into dire situations here. Minnesota somehow has a 2-on-1 open, or at least it was developing, until the linesman, who is doing that thing where you jump up to dodge the puck, you jump up on one of the benches, accidentally clotheslines Matt Dumba along the way. Wasn't the ref's fault, but it was just like the building let him have it. Oh my goodness. He was standing, or I guess it's, you know what I'm talking about. It's the thing where like you do this, bounce up, wait for the puck to go underneath, slides underneath. Instead, Dumba, coming from that side, just boom, takes out his legs. Both of them go down, and the 2-on-1 is done, which sucks. But again, it's not the referee's fault. So you gotta get out of the way, but sometimes they just can't get out of the way. Then 4:17 left. That seems to be the thing that turns the tides for the Coyotes. Now the Yotes are starting to put pressure in Minnesota's zone. But then Minnesota's defense finally steps up, is able to clog the neutral zone and not let the Coyotes actually get into the zone. Finally, the defense that Tyson Nash said sucked in the beginning, which it did, finally shows up and finally stops the Coyotes' rush and ends the game. What also didn't help is that in the final minute for the Coyotes, not only did they pull the goalie late, they pulled him with 1:11 left because they couldn't get into the zone, so they couldn't pull Connor Ingram. At the same time, the Coyotes had a little bit of Wild syndrome. What do I mean by that? It means you overpass without shooting. And so that's what they did. The entire minute, I was hearing the Coyotes broadcast, both Matt McConnell and Tyson Nash are both like, why aren't they shooting? And I'm thinking, yeah, why aren't they shooting? They had 59 seconds, dwindled down to 12, and they only put one shot on net when they could have put multiple others. They just kept passing around the world, just like the Wild do. They never pass it into the slot. They never go behind the net. They never moved. It just, literally, I looked at it, I'm like, that's what the Wild have done for a good chunk of time. But thank goodness it happened to the other team, and the Wild end up winning this one 2-1. And like I said, despite sloppy play in the first, the power play was good when it needed to be. You scored on a 5-on-3, technically twice, but it only counted for once. And Fleury stood on his head when he needed to. And the defense showed up when they had to in the third period. And because of that, the Wild now have 52 points, 24-14-4 record. They are third in the Central, only 5 points back. Well, as of that day, 5 points back from I think both the Jets and the Stars, I think they were tied. But that's who we're chasing. We're still third in the Central, trying to distance from the Avs, but also trying to catch the Stars and the Jets. And our next game is technically tomorrow. Well, Tuesday, January 17th, 5 Mountain Time, because that's what I wrote down here. So 8 Eastern Time, I think. I think I want to say, I know it's 5 Mountain Time. So just backtrack from that. And we're at Washington on the start of a road trip. I feel confident in the Wild, and I think it'll be better to watch them, especially considering what has happened with Minnesota sports, at least with the Vikings recently. It's just, oh man, it's just brutal to watch these teams. Again, I would like to have a championship of any kind in my lifetime. I've had my friends see championships because I watched the Broncos win in 2015. I watched the Avs win last year because even though I'm still a Wild fan and I will cheer for them over the Avs, I went to those watch parties. Those things were so much fun. Oh my gosh. You have thousands of people showing up to a random field a little ways away from the arena, just cheering as loud as they can and just going nuts when a goal happens. It's watch parties. It's awesome. And so it was fun to see the Avs win a Stanley Cup in my lifetime finally, because last time they won it was 2001. But It's good to see that. And I kept thinking, man, what would it be like if the Wild won the Stanley Cup? And I'd like to actually see that, because I'd probably head up to Minnesota and party hard there. I don't know. But I just hope that I can see any sort of championship in my lifetime. And I think everybody from Minnesota can, because the only championships that Minnesota's won was the Twins in 1987, and 1991, over 3 decades ago. We haven't won one in the 21st century. The Twins have lost 18 straight playoff games. That's bad. And while they did get Carlos Correa back, you can only hope for Byron Buxton to stay healthy. So maybe not soon, or maybe they shock us all. Who knows? The Timberwolves, usually when they get good talent, they waste it, and the good talent wins a championship somewhere else. Kevin Garnett is probably the best example of that. I just hope it doesn't happen with like Anthony Edwards or Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell. I honestly don't know where they're sitting right now. I'll probably check here soon, but I'm hoping at some point they can at least get further into the playoffs, because I was actually confident that they could beat Memphis last year, but I guess that's on me. The Vikings, yeah, it hurts. It hurts. Hurts to be a Vikings fan, because you almost can see it coming every time. You almost see the train wreck happening in slow motion, and it just hurts every time, even more than the last one. Okay? You'd think we get used to it, but we never do. Because we think at one point, we'll finally get to stand on the mountaintop. We will be able to talk mad shit to anybody that we want to. But we have had heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. And I'm only lucky I wasn't alive to see some of the worst ones. Like 1998 NFC Championship game. People do not like that one. 2003 losing to the Cardinals. That was brutal. I don't remember seeing that, but I've seen it before. And Paul Allen just screaming his lungs out. That's probably the best example of a Vikings fan commentating a game. Like, what he's... Oh, my God. It hurts to listen to still. There was that. There was 2009 losing to the Saints. I watched that. That was the first real heartbreak I had remembered in my time. There's 2015 against the Seahawks. Then we get a miracle in the Minneapolis Miracle on January 14th, where we actually get a play like that to go our way. A Hail Mary in the playoffs like that to go our way. That wasn't Ahmad Rashad back in the day. It had been a while since that Ahmad Rashad one, but this one was just absurd with how it happened. Then we go to the NFC Championship game, and we get killed by the Eagles, 38-17, and they go on to win the Super Bowl in our stadium. By the way, that NFC Championship game, January 21st, my birthday. I'm not kidding. It was awful. And then we fast forward to now. Vikings haven't done anything. We get the best receivers. We win the division. We go 13-4. We are 11-0 in one-score games. We have at least two of the greatest comebacks in NFL history. And it's only good enough for a wild card exit. And then you have this team, who they haven't done much. They were in the Western Conference Finals in 2003. I don't remember that, because obviously I was too young to remember that. I was 1 year old. But it was that, and the Wild haven't gotten back to that point since. The best team we've ever had in franchise history last year can't even get past the first round. Can't even get past St. Louis. Again, I sound like a broken record, because I've just continued to say it. One day it will happen, and I don't know which team will do it, but one of those four will win a championship. I'm going to say in the next, well, I think obviously in the next 50 years. I'll say next 10. I'll say in the next 10 years, next decade, at some point, one of those four will win a championship. At least one of those four. And if it doesn't happen, well then, I know how to handle it with the lifetime that I've been given so far. But hey, why not? If it happens, it becomes the greatest thing we've ever seen. And if it doesn't, then we know how to handle it better than any other region in all of sports. Buffalo can cry their eyes out with all that, but they're still in the playoffs, and they have a great shot to win it. They don't have an NBA team or an MLB team either. So I kind of think we get a mulligan on that one. Not to mention, Buffalo, when they're bad, they are really bad. We're never bad enough to be the first overall pick in any of our leagues. Well, except for the Timberwolves. That's why the Timberwolves kind of give me hope, because if they're bad, they can get first picks and good generational talents. But one of these, again, like I said, next decade, one of these teams will win. That's my bold take. And if people want to argue and comment that no, this won't happen or stuff like that, if you want to comment how to fix Minnesota sports, I'm all ears. I think everyone in Minnesota is all ears, because we'd love to know what it feels like to win a championship. We would love that, because playing bridesmaid for over 60 years as the Vikings is just brutal. For the Wild, or for hockey in Minnesota, having the team we've had for the longest time leave us in 93 somehow and then win a championship 6 years later, that's par for the course. Having lost 18 straight playoff games from our most successful franchise, also par for the course. And then having the last team be the one where we have a Hall of Famer, bona fide Hall of Famer leading us, and he goes elsewhere to win a championship because we can't get it done. Again, what? I don't even know how to word this. One day it will happen. I hope I'm alive to see it. Probably will be, but until then, let's just keep hoping it comes sooner. That's it for this video. A lot more of a rant than I wanted it to be, but we got a game tomorrow because it's the Wild taking on the Capitals. So that should be able to get our minds off of the Vikings. And I'll be able to cover that and give you something that's less sad. Be able to give you something that's less sad, less cathartic. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we shut out that game. But we'll see. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe and see more, by all means, I'd love that. Like this video. If you disagree with something, then comment and just say down below and be respectful. But yeah, you get the gist. And anyways, I'll talk to you all later. See ya.